Like, hit that subscribe, giddy up, let's go, no notes.
That's my baby.
I'm dying.
That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
Slap.
What the hell was that?
Oh, yeah!
What the f*** are you talking about?
What up, son? Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to Pro Fan Talk. Thank you for joining me. What's going on, good people? I appreciate you. Another Thursday. We back at it. And it was a rough week. A rough 2 weeks. Let's keep it real. It was not fun. Right? We got spanked by the 49ers. Then we got spanked by the Cowboys in Dallas. And it's not that we lost, it's how we lost. Because in both games, it seemed as though we just bothered not to show up. I don't understand that. Don't get it. But that was pretty much what it was. No two ways about it. And not a good look. Definitely not a good look. So we had to recover and regroup. And now we got to get ready to go to Seattle on Monday after a flex day. Maybe that was a blessing in disguise. And excuse me. Yeah. Got an extra day of rest. Uh-oh. What just happened? There we go. My camera just phased out on me. But in any case, got an extra day of rest. And now we're back at it. And we're trying to get ready to get ourselves back together, get on the grind. You know the main thing that we do, trying to get it together. Everybody's been bitching and moaning about the same stuff. Defense is weak. That's not really bitching and moaning. That it is what it is. Our defense is god awful. I don't know if the Shaq Leonard, because I mean you got to look at it like this: if Shaq Leonard, Kevin Byard together, they're not really helping us. I don't know what Shaq Leonard can do from his position if what they're calling doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of, you got your defensive issues on one side, and you got the offensive issues on the other. Now, what I will say is the offensive side of the ball is a little bit easier to fix as opposed to the defense. I just think Brian Johnson's got to make some different decisions and different. There's some things that we could do. We'll get into that a little bit later. But we're getting ready to travel. Like I said, the extra day was a blessing in disguise. It doesn't look like Geno Smith, or at least today. He's still questionable. We'll see what happens and how that plays out. But for the time being, it is what it is. He's questionable. So we'll be dealing with Locke. But really, does that give us the advantage? Or does that make does that give Seattle, the young quarterback, a little bit of opportunity because he's going against the worst defense in the league? Jake Friel, what's going on, brother? So whose benefit is that? Is it the fact that our defense is going up against Locke, or is it the fact that Locke is going up against the worst defense in the league? So same thing with Geno. Geno Smith is not somebody that necessarily scares me. DK Metcalf, on the other hand, absolutely. But Geno Smith, or Locke for that matter, not really. So we got some questions to answer, man. We gotta figure out some things. Our defensive line should have a little bit more of an advantage this week. So we got our defensive line is clearly better than their offensive line. Their offensive line has some issues. We're still solid. We just make some questionable decisions in our play calling. And personally, I think that Jalen Hurts has been making some bad decisions in where he's going with the ball. I won't say bad decisions. Let's just say he's not doing himself any favors and he's not making his situation easier. It seems like the opposite. Some of the decisions he's making is making it more complicated. And it doesn't have to be. We got enough problems already. So we don't, you don't want to add to it. So, I don't know what they can really change, but they got to change something. They got to they got to do something different. You know what I'm saying? They got to do something different. So, what is the expectations versus Seattle? And when I ask for expectations, specifically, what are your expectations for Brian Johnson? What are your issues with him right now? Because here's the one thing that we've got to be honest about when it comes to Brian Johnson, for real. Now let's keep it at the Dallas game. What have you done for me lately, right? If it's not for Jalen Hurts fumbling, A.J. Brown fumbling, Devontae Smith fumbling, and both A.J. and Devontae, I think Devontae had 2 drop passes. A.J. Brown had, I think, 1 or 2 himself. So essentially, if we don't turn the ball over, if A.J. and Devontae don't drop passes, both of those receivers have 100 yards in the same game. And then we're not looking at Brian Johnson, so we're not giving him the evil eye because they showed up against Dallas. And because ultimately, if you think about it, with a couple of gripes about how we run the ball, that's just going to be the way that it is. I'm hoping it'll change. I'm hoping it'll change before playoffs start. But for whatever reason, it's just that is a hard hurdle for the Eagles to break through. That is a hard threshold for them to cross for whatever reason. It was the same way last year. It was the same exact way last year when we was talking about Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders, y'all know I was a fan of Miles Sanders. I had no problem with Miles Sanders. And I believed if they would have ran Miles Sanders like every other team runs their number 1 running back, Miles Sanders would have been the NFL's rushing leader. Period. He would have been that dude. And, through mathematics, that's the way it was. His average, the way we were running him, we just weren't going to get there. We're just not going to get there. So, 3 turnovers when Dallas is getting all the TDs. Yeah, Habib, you're 100% right. And you got to remember, going into this game, the last, how many games? Dallas's defense is known for turnovers, forcing turnovers, whether it's Bland with another pick 6 or their defense forcing guys to put the ball on the ground. That is Dallas's bread and butter on defense. They've been physical and they've been forcing guys to put the ball on the ground all year. All year. If you a fan of the Eagles, get all of that Dallas hate out the mind right now. Let's think logically. You'll have plenty of time to hate on the Cowboys again. Yeah, I promise you. You have plenty of time to do that. But let's think logically for a minute. Let's think common sense for a minute. You know what Dallas is. The blueprint hasn't changed on Dallas. If you want to run on Dallas, you run at Micah Parsons. Nothing has changed. They got decent linebackers, they got good secondary, and they are healthy. And for whatever reason, AJ Brown decides he wants to jaw jack with what's his name? What's the Dallas DB? He gets into it, and talking smack and getting into somebody's face is fine if you balling out. But if you putting the ball on the ground, you know what? Ain't nothing you can say. And it's not like AJ had a bad game. He didn't. It's just the turnover overshadows what he did. Can't get around that. Can't get around it. Yeah, Anthony, I agree with you 100%, but you might as well take Rashad Penny out. They're not going to, I'd be surprised if they play him. It would make sense because he's going home to Seattle, but my thing is like, why would you put him in now? And then I guarantee you, if they do take him to Seattle, if he does dress, he's not gonna play much. Not gonna play much at all. So I don't know. But because again, my logic is if all of a sudden you're dressing Penny so he can play in Seattle, well, that means he could have been playing before. So Anthony, I still don't know what's wrong with Rashad Penny. If there is anything wrong, they may just be making the business decision to go with DeAndre Swift and Kenny Gainwell. And if that's the case, I'm good with that. But why'd you bring him in? Is he better than Gainwell? Is he better than Boston Scott? Is he the fourth best back on our team? I don't know. We haven't seen him enough to really come up with any type of conclusion. When I see Penny, that just makes me think that the management had no faith that DeAndre Swift was going to last the whole year. That's what that makes me think. Habib, I don't necessarily agree with that. Well, let me say it like this. I don't know if I can disagree because I ain't seen enough of him. Penny is a fast back. He's strong. He's faster than people realize, and he's explosive. So, and the way our offense likes to run off tackle, I think he would fit. I think he would fit. But the one thing about our offense, and I've been saying this all week, the NFL is a copycat league. How come we're the only team that's not copying? What's up with that? We're the only team in the league that's not copying. And what I mean by that is you look at what everybody else is doing. You look at what everybody else is doing successfully, and then you look at what everybody else is doing successfully against specific teams. That's how you formulate a game plan. You say, okay, we're going to watch this Seattle game. All right, let's watch the film of Seattle at Dallas. And let's figure out what Dallas did well against Seattle. And then you go down and then you cherry pick the things that Dallas did well or the things that another team did well, and then you retrofit it to your offense. If they ran a certain pitch or if they ran a certain run play, you retrofit it to fit your offense. You don't have to come up with a bunch of new plays and stuff like that. You say, okay, they did this. We have something similar in our playbook. So you know what? Let's alter it a little bit. And this week, because their defensive end likes to slant hard, we're going to hit this play one hole wider. You just tweak things a little bit based on what you see on film. That's all you got to do. So when you hear people say Brian Johnson needs to become a little bit more creative, that doesn't mean he has to go in his bag of tricks and come up with a bunch of gadget plays and all of this that doesn't mean that. All that means is you take what you have. You take your already existing plays and you tweak them a bit. That's it. You add a little bit, you add some motion to it. You add a couple of extra shifts or something like that. I studied tape on San Francisco before that game. They ran the same 4 or 5 sets all game. They've been running the same 4 or 5 sets all year. They're not changing nothing. The good thing about San Francisco is You know exactly what they're going to run. You know exactly what they're going to run. You just can't stop it. That's it in a nutshell. You just can't stop it. They're good enough at what they do. You know what's coming, and you still can't stop it. And then, once again, NFL is a copycat league. We're the only ones that's not copying. Did you see when we played Dallas, when they ran that play, when Kevontae Turpin went into motion, and he did an arc motion behind the quarterback in gun formation? That's the same thing San Francisco did against us successfully. They got their playmaker the ball in space. That's what they do. Maybe something will pop up. Maybe it won't. But what you want to do is you want to give your fastest guy an opportunity to run with the ball. That's exactly what they did. Wasn't that the play when Turpin went down the field for like 25 yards, right around the right side? You get people moving around, get them out of position. You set your blocks up for a bit. That's all you got to do. Just do it a little bit differently. What's up, Chucks? Shout out to you, Chucks, because I got this from you. I pulled this from Chuck's Twitter feed. And again, we had this same gripe last year with Miles Sanders. All the bitching and moaning that we've been doing because we're not running DeAndre Swift enough. And I agree 100%. We are not running that kid enough. And look where he is. He's still in the top 5 in the league for rushing. Don't even make sense. So just imagine. Let's not even go crazy. Let's just say that on average, let's just say DeAndre Swift got, let's say 3 to 5 more carries a game. That's it. 3 to 5 more carries a game. You mean to tell me that he can't make up that difference over the course of a year? You mean to tell me he can't do that? This is the same issue we had last year. We were talking about the same stuff last year. We didn't run Miles Sanders enough. We didn't run enough, period. But everybody wants to talk about how good our offensive line is. Prove it. Prove it. We talking about how much we miss Shane Steichen and all of that kind of stuff because we don't like the way Brian Johnson is calling the plays. I get all of that. But do you also remember that Shane Steichen was the guy that went into Chicago and threw the ball in 19-degree weather when we should have been running the ball? You do remember that Shane Steichen is the guy that was calling the plays when Jalen Hurts got hurt in 19-degree weather because he didn't want to hand the ball off? That guy. So it wasn't like everything was all roses with Steichen. He had his issues too. Sirianni had his issues too. And did we forget that we didn't run the ball until game 5? That we started running the ball like we should have been the whole beginning of the season, the whole first quarter of the season. And then when we got to midseason, we just stopped doing it. Jalen had a couple good games throwing the ball, and it's like, oh, all is well in the world. We don't have to run the ball no more. Let's go over the top from now on. The last year and this year, the same problem. The same problem. They gave us a touch of DeAndre Swift early in the year, and everybody liked it. He's explosive. He got out. He had big plays, 20-plus yards or more. He was doing it. And then we stopped giving him the ball. And it was every excuse in the world. And it's like, you don't need all of that. You don't need all of that. Just give him the damn ball. And then when you do give him the ball, stop limiting him to running tackle to tackle. That was good early in the year when people didn't know what to expect. Now, we more than 3/4 way through the season, everybody's got enough film on us. They know exactly what we're running and where we're going. And we haven't changed up a bit. You mean that off tackle play, we don't have a fake where we can hand it off and go jet sweep? Or run an arc motion like everybody else in the league does and get your linebackers to flow and hand the ball off to the man in arc motion. Or fake it and give it to the man underneath. Or fake it, make it a play action, and that guy that's going underneath that you normally hand the ball off to, let him get through the line of scrimmage and drift off backside like a little flat route. There's so many things you can do. This is how we did this when I was coaching 10-year-olds for the GT Stallions. I would make 10 plays. I would design 10 plays, 7 run plays, and 3 pass plays. In every play, I came up with at least 2 variations for every play, sometimes 3. So those 10 plays turned into almost 30 to 40 plays. That's all you need. You take what you got and you tweak it. Somebody joined the team. This kid's faster than anybody else. So you know what? Let's use this play. Normally we want a pitch play, but guess what? I'm going to line him up, in man on the line of scrimmage. I'm going to fake a pitch, hand it to him underneath, and he's basically going to jet sweep the other way. Everybody's flood. You make up stuff like that. It's not that difficult. You got an NFL playbook. Use it. Tweak it. Do whatever you got to do. Just get the kid the ball because we're wasting them. It's bad enough that we're wasting Rashad Penny. It's bad enough that we're wasting Boston Scott. People really don't talk about Boston Scott enough. Every time Boston Scott gets in the game, he makes something happen. But we don't think of him in that way because we got DeAndre Swift. We have Miles Sanders. Every time Boston Scott got in the game, he made something happen. Why does it have to be just when we play New York? Because if he did it against New York, why can't he do it against somebody else? It doesn't make sense. Sound like Pete Holmes. Doesn't make any sense. And Brian Johnson does not like screens. And he doesn't. Yes, you know what? It ain't about making a route shorter. We have short routes, but I agree with you. Our best play, in my opinion, is when we throw that slant to A.J. Brown across the middle. It's usually a 5-yard slant, 5 to 7 yards. He catches it in space, and then he makes somebody miss. That's the same thing Debo did to us. Do y'all realize when we played San Francisco and Debo had all those yards, he only caught 4 passes? And 2 of those passes were, or matter of fact, 2 of those he caught 3 touchdown passes. Yeah, he caught 3 touchdown passes. I think, and then he had a long run. But 2 out of those 3 big plays that he made, one was a screen play, and the other one was like a 5-yard slant that we missed tackles, and he scored. So it's not like they're going long. It's not happening. They're not doing that. The one good thing that I wish we could take from somebody like San Francisco is that they do what they do best. They know what they do best, and they do it. And you know what's coming, and yet you can't stop it. So, Chucks, I'm with you, man. I'm a big fan of Boston Scott. Every time he gets in there, man, he makes something happen, period. Every time Boston Scott's in the game, he makes something happen. And again, I'll say it again. Why the hell do we wait until we play the Giants because he's the giant killer and we get into that nonsense like the media? For what? If he can do it against New York, he can do it against other teams. So why don't we use him more? If he's playing better than Gainwell, then let him play. That's what coaches get paid to do. As a coach, your job is to look at your personnel and understand who's the best person for the job, and you're supposed to use those people. That's what you're supposed to do as a coach. You got to make those hard decisions. And sometimes I do think that Sirianni, just because of the way his personality is and all of that kind of stuff, there's nothing wrong with it, But sometimes it seems like he's going personal over performance. He likes his guys. No. Find out who's the best player on the field at a position, and then you find out who's the second best, and then you figure out your order, your depth, and then you stick with it. The problem the problem now is it's a lot more difficult to do that because nobody hits in camp anymore. Excuse me. So I don't. So when I hear people say there's not much we can do, how are they going to change this much this late in the year? It's not really much to change. You just tweak it on offense anyway. Defense, in my opinion, the only thing we got to do is start tackling better. It is what it is as far as our coverage and what our linebackers can do. It is what it is. The only thing you can change in that situation is your tackling. If we get Debo on the ground on a 5-yard slant, that's a 5-yard gain, period. He doesn't turn it into a 40-yard touchdown. That's the problem. And then you got technique issues. And this is where I think Sean Desai deserves more criticism than Brian Johnson, in my opinion. So we can gripe about Brian Johnson, but guess what? Brian Johnson didn't fumble the ball against Dallas. Brian Johnson didn't miss a wide open stole on the first play of the game against San Francisco that probably could have went for a touchdown, or at the very least, got us inside the 15-yard line. Brian Johnson didn't do that. They don't practice those mistakes. So Brian Johnson doesn't practice Jalen Hurts leaving the pocket too early and trying to direct traffic and missing the check down for an easy 5 yards to move the chains. So as much as we want to gripe about Brian Johnson, he ain't doing all of that. What's up, Brian Daly? So there's a yin and a yang with it, man. You gotta. There's good and bad with it, bro. Good and bad with it. Sean Desai, it seems to me watching the tape that the Eagles do not practice technique enough. They don't. The one thing I've learned how to do is, if you're the smartest person in the room, find a new room. So I don't claim to know everything about football, everything about defenses and stuff like that. I don't. So you know what I do? Watch the other people that do. And I was watching this week. I watched Jason Avant and Quentin Michael. I watched their podcast, and they got to talking about the techniques and watching film. And the reason why we miss a lot of tackles is technique-based. It's technique-based. You run up to the line of scrimmage to support a run play, and your feet are not square with the line of scrimmage. You at an angle, the running back runs right past you. You try to make a tackle, and you catch his back shoulder, and he slides off of you and keeps going. What's up, Dennis? I see you, brother. So that's techniques issues. When you run up and come up and have your body square to the line of scrimmage, and you can make a tackle. So even if he runs over you and you fall backwards, you're still in a good position where you can wrap up and you keep it at most a 2 to 3 yard gain instead of a 12-yard first down. That's technique stuff. I remember a couple weeks ago we were talking about James Bradbury had a particularly bad game, and it was a technique thing. He wasn't moving his hips. He was staying flat on his feet until the wide receiver got too close. Those are technique things. He can still run. He didn't forget how to run. But it was technique things. You guarding a wide receiver on his outside shoulder rather than his inside shoulder based on down and distance, and you giving him the room he needs to run the pattern. You can't do that. That's technique stuff. That's coaching stuff right there. That's the gripe with Sean with Desai. I don't think their coaching technique, even today, I saw the clip. Somebody had it on Twitter today where they were doing ball control drills because of the fumbles. And I was like, first of all, how the hell you going to do ball control drills and you ain't running? They jogging back and forth and they got the poles with the boxing gloves on them. They're trying to punch the ball out. And I'm like, that ain't how you do it. You got to be at least running half speed. Somebody comes behind you, reaches over the top and tries to rip the ball out. You got to be at least going some semblance of running. You can't just be half jogging and try to punch the ball. That ain't going to work. You got to be running half to 3/4 speed. Somebody comes up behind you and just try to rip. Man, I did all of that stuff. All of it. It's technique stuff. All technique stuff, man. So I don't want to see all of that. I don't want to see him jogging it. I don't need to see all of that. Because if that's what they've been doing for practice to hold on to the ball, now it makes sense why they letting the ball go. Because that ain't helping nothing. So, we'll see. And plus, man, at this level, with the money they make, and you done made it this far, and you ain't figured that out yet, that's something that should have been discussed in the meeting room. Yo, watching film, Dallas knows how to poke the ball out. We got to do a good job on protecting the ball this week. You talk about that stuff. Are they not talking about it? Or do they just try to, take it for granted? I don't know. Dylan, I'm with you 100%, bro. Check downs, man. Check downs. Jalen Hurts has been taking a lot more coverage sacks this year. A lot more. Because he's been in the pocket. His knee was hurt, so he's not going to take off like he did last year. So it wasn't he's just not doing it. So he's got to be a little bit more careful. So he was staying in the pocket. And remember, first half of the season, his in the pocket passing percentage was through the roof. It was through the roof. Had no problems with it. So now that he can scramble, now that his knee is a little bit better, I still don't think it's 100%. And you can just tell by the way he moves. But now it's a little bit better. Now we want to run the RPOs, and then what's the first thing that happens? He tries to slide. Somebody gets a late hit. It's not flagged. Then he almost gets concussed. We put him in harm's way again. Hand the ball off, man. Get the ball to the guys you pay to run the ball. I don't understand that. But I do understand this. We're going to talk about Royal Billiards for a minute. Hold tight.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, proudly celebrating 40 years and our new, bigger showroom.
Twice the size and twice the fun.
More pool tables by Olhausen. More dartboard sets, including custom reclaimed backboards. More bar and kitchen stools that can change a room.
And more bars, including pre-built and custom.
Hot tubs, skee ball, shuffleboard, outdoor,
and fun.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, your ultimate game room store. Now located on Bethlehem Pike in Colmar.
Yeah, Dennis. I still don't think Jalen is 100%. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't think he's 100%. So I don't know. He's definitely, if you look at go on YouTube right now, you look at any highlight of Jalen Hurts from 22. And then you will see how much faster he was. I never thought Jalen Hurts, to me, Jalen Hurts has good speed. He doesn't have great speed. He can run away from people because most quarterbacks are not that fast. But he's not as fast as Kyler Murray. I don't think he's fast. He's definitely not as fast as Lamar. He might not even be as fast as Josh Allen. But Josh Allen is 6'3", 6'4", with that long stride. Josh Allen can move for somebody to be that big. But he is fast enough where he can run away from people, and he's strong enough where he can surprise you if you come up to make the hit. But he's still a quarterback. Still a quarterback. You notice, remember the play last year. And to me, this was the play, in my opinion. This was the play that I saw that I said, oh, he's the guy. We were playing last year. I can't remember. Was it last year? I think it was last year. Early in the season, we were playing the Saints at home, and he rolled out, and he stopped on a dime and cut back and made that defensive end lose his feet, cut all the way back the field, across the field, scored. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. And when I saw that play, I was like, he is the guy. He is that dude. But he ain't made no cuts like that this year. Hasn't done it. He is not 100% with that knee, but he's good enough to where he can do what he got to do. But you can just tell by the way, all of the sacks that he's been taking. He would have broken those tackles a couple times last year. You even look at the I even hate saying this, but look at the Jets game where he was almost safety in our end zone, and he ends up throwing the pass while he's stiff-arming a guy at the same time. That takes strength, core strength, leg strength, all of that kind of stuff. But he was doing it. He ain't had no problem doing it. Now, not so much. So when he's back there holding the ball, first of all, you can't hold the ball for 6 and 7 seconds. You can't do it. If ain't nobody open by then, ain't nobody going to be open. Check the ball down, get your 3 to 5 yards, and keep it moving. Get a ball to Swift or Gainwell. Let them get what they can get. Maybe they break a tackle, but at least it's not incomplete. And now you at 3rd and 6 or 7. I'll take 3rd and 3 rather than 3rd and 6. Because if you go 3rd and 3, we can brotherly shove twice and get the first down. So we can do some things. We just out of whack when it comes to that. So offensively, I think the issue can be fixed rather easily. So Dennis, I'm not gonna doubt that. It might be something. It might be something. Something's bothering him, and I'm sure we'll find out at the end of the year. But we got to do something a little bit better. And again, on offense, it's not easy. On defense, that's a little bit more complicated. A little bit more complicated. Because at the end you asking this question. Is it the side or is it the players? Because like I said before, when I see guys talking about technique and you taking the wrong pattern or, why are you doing like it was a couple plays where Shaq Leonard was rushing the passer and Nolan Smith was dropped in coverage. And you know what I say about linebackers, right? Nolan Smith is a 4-3 rush edge / outside linebacker. 4-3. The boy is fast. Okay? However, a defensive edge rusher cannot cover. Period. Can't cover. He can run. He can run with you, but he cannot cover. When you say somebody can cover, that implies that you can backpedal and turn your hips and match whichever way the receiver is going. You can open your hips and run with him. You can close your hips to the inside, change direction, and run with him when he runs a slant, when he runs a corner, in, out, anything like that. You can stop, open your hips, change direction, all of that kind of stuff. When you cover somebody, that's what that entails. Linebackers cannot cover. I don't care if it's Nolan Smith. I don't care if it's Shaq Leonard. I don't care if it's Warner, Greenlaw, Roquan Smith. You name it. You name me a linebacker that can cover. They can't. They can run with you, but they can't cover. The minute a linebacker starts running and you get him to open his hips, as a skill position player, whether you are running back or whether you are a wide receiver, the minute you can get your opponent to open his hips, you got him. You got him. Because when they open the hips to run with you, they've committed. Why do you think, and again, this is a technique thing, why do you think that wide receivers, a lot of their pass patterns, a lot of their routes, they always attack the outside shoulder? You attack the outside shoulder because you're trying to convince that defensive back to open his hips to the outside. The minute he even looks like he's opening his hips to the outside, you cut behind him and either run the corner or run the end. He cannot catch you. You done already created about 3 to 4 yards of separation because it's going to take him 2 to 3 steps to stop his momentum and change direction. He's beat. He's beat. Even if, a lot of times, even if you still run in the same direction, you get these guys that's running streaks, same thing. If you attack the inside or the outside shoulder, it depends on what the pass pattern is. A lot of times they'll attack the outside shoulder and then they'll do a skinny slant. They'll pretty much stay on the same trajectory, but they'll make a little cut inside. So just think of it like this. If the defensive back is lined up on the numbers and the receiver attacks the outside of the numbers, the minute that DB turns, he goes to the inside of the numbers. He's still running the go route. But that's the difference between the quarterback throwing the ball in between the hashes and him throwing the ball to the pylon. If you open your hips, and I'm a receiver and I dip to the inside, now I'm on the inside of the field, you get all of that space for the quarterback to hit you with the ball, and he can't recover. It's a technique thing. We always win those battles. That's why, to me, it's so important to get DeAndre Swift involved in the game. We talk about this 21 package, 2 running backs. Well, let's do it. But you can't just have 2 running backs in there and they want to run the ball. The purpose of having 2 running backs is so you can get the mismatch on the linebacker, which is exactly what the 49ers did to us, which is exactly what Dallas did to us. Dallas didn't do nothing but watch the tape of the 49ers game, and they adjusted a couple of plays to match what they already run. They ran that daggone motion, and what happened? The linebackers flew over there. He reversed out, hand off the ball. The linebackers were always already out of position, and it set up the blocks. We get around the corner, they get a big gain. That's easy to do. It don't take rocket science. That is what happens when people talk about we got to get more creative. That's how you get creative. You find 4 and 5 different ways to run the same damn play. Because if they couldn't stop it the normal way, what are they going to do? When you come in some crazy formation, but you know what? You're running the same off-tackle play. You're running the same jet sweep. It just looks different. That's all everybody's doing. So don't be surprised if Seattle comes out and what are they going to do? If they were smart, they would put DK Metcalf as the end man on the line of scrimmage, lined up where a tight end would be, and you got DK Metcalf over Nick Moreau, Zach Cunningham, or Shaq Leonard. As good as Shaq Leonard ever was, he can't run with DK Metcalf. That's an instant mismatch. That's what you want. That's why we're losing the chess match. When you come, McCarthy shouldn't be a genius because he just looked at what everybody else is doing. He looked at what the Commanders did. He looked at what the Buffalo Bills did to us. He looked at all of these games, and we still having the same problem. Everybody's talking so much about the brotherly shove and how, that gives the offensive an advantage because it seems like you get an extra down to do what you need to do. Well, guess what? Now that the teams that are playing the Eagles, if they're on offense and you got a third down defense where you are successful 50% of the time on third downs, guess what's going to happen on third and long? They going for it because we can't stop it. If it's 3rd and 6 and they go for it, you might as well flip a coin because you got a 50-50 chance. Our third down defense is like at 48% success rate. Opponent success rate on third down against us is like at 40, mid 40s. It's almost you flipping a coin. So we're not that good. And people are taking advantage of it. Everybody's looking at the film and they're making the right decisions. It's that simple. And we haven't proven that we can stop it yet. That's the problem. We haven't proved anything. But this will prove that you want something from Carlino's, because we're gonna hit Carlino's and we're gonna hit hats.com consecutively. So I'll be right back. Hold tight.
In our family, food is our daily bond. My nonna, affectionately called Mama by many, found solace and joy in the kitchen, sharing her love through delicious creations. She turned her culinary passion into a flourishing business alongside her husband and sons in 1983. Celebrating 40 years is a testament to our exceptional team, friends, family, and beloved customers. With gratitude, we look forward to the future, expanding our brand to share the highest quality Italian food and wine nationwide. Our heartfelt thanks to everyone who has played a part in our story. Grazie mille.
Hats.com is the premier destination for quality and fashion-forward hats and more, with designs for every style and trend. Locally based and run by Philly sports team fanatics, Hats.com can help you elevate your hat John. Utilize the easy-to-use guides at Hats.com to find your perfect size and style, and shipping and returns are free. Hats.com. Find yourself in a hat. Use code Philly for 15% off your order.
So, yeah, man, it's Dylan. The biggest issue of the defensive line isn't getting the quarterback, which is causing our secondary to leave gaps. I think it's vice versa. You can't expect the defense to get home all the time. And again, teams watch tape. What's up, Derry? I see you in there. I appreciate you, cuz. Teams watch tape. What's the blueprint on the Eagles? Get rid of the ball quick. Ask Washington. Washington wrote the blueprint on it. There is no earthly reason why the Washington Commanders should have took us to the wire twice. Twice. Sam Howell carved us up. Look at what happened the first half when we played the Rams. They were carving us up. We couldn't slow them down. Get rid of the ball quick. 1, 2, 3, throw. 1, 2, 3, throw. So you nullify the defensive line. Everybody knows that Jalen Carter is probably going to be defensive rookie of the year. Everybody knows Josh Sweat. Everybody knows BG. Everybody knows Hassan Reddick. They've been watching film. Get rid of the ball quick. You know why? Because they linebackers and they secondary can't cover. Everybody knows that. So why would you expect teams to not do anything different? The teams that don't do that are stupid, because you've already been shown what is successful against this defense. And if a team if Seattle doesn't come out and get rid of the ball quick, then Seattle's just dumb. It doesn't make sense. They've showed you the blueprint. You just gotta apply it. And that's exactly what good teams will do. That's exactly what Dallas did. That's exactly what the 49ers did. The second time we played the Commanders, they did the same stuff they did in the first game, and it still worked. And on third down, everybody knows now, because now you're seeing 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, more teams are going for it because they know we can't stop nobody on third downs. They know that. Even last year, remember last year, look at the Dallas game in Dallas last year when it was 3rd and 29. And they converted. It's ridiculous, but it's been happening all year long. Now the warts are just showing because Jalen hasn't been putting up 30-something odd points in the game to cover. So now we got to deal with it. Now we got to deal with it. And it's costing us. So if you want to look at Brian Johnson and you want to look at Sean Desai, which one is in the hot seat right now? I would argue that it is Sean Desai. Because we are the last ranked. We are the worst defense in the NFL, and we are the worst defense on third down. So who do you think is on the hot seat? No, I don't like a lot of Brian Johnson's play calling, but guess what? We still got a running back that's top 5 in the league. Do you realize that A.J. Brown had the hot streak where he broke the record with the most games, consecutive games with 125 yards or more, right? And then he kind of got cold because people started double teaming him, bracket coverage, things of that nature. So now A.J. Brown became the game plan. So what happened? Devontae Smith started making some noise because we got 2 number 1 receivers. But do you realize that A.J. Brown, he went on that cold streak, didn't have, really great games, but he's still the number 2 receiver in the NFL? Somebody's got to throw him the ball. Somebody's got to call that play. That play is in somebody's playbook. That's Brian Johnson. So if we go gripe about him, you gotta give him his props. You gotta give him his props. We should have had 2 receivers with more than 100 yards in Dallas. Jalen fumbled the ball on like the 19-yard line. So we are in the red zone. Devontae Smith breaks 2 tackles. And we were about to be in the red zone. Fumbles the ball. Before A.J. Brown's fumble, Jalen Hurts throws an absolute dime on the sideline, would have gave us the ball on the 5-yard line going in, and he dropped it. He dropped it. If it had been Quez Watkins, we'd have been asking him to get rid of him. Get Quez out of here. Put Oz back in. We'd have had all of that energy. It hit him in the hands, and he dropped it. You don't practice that. You don't practice drops. Jalen put the ball exactly where he's supposed to be. The one pass he threw that was a half a second off. He would have thrown it a tick later. I believe he would have hit Devontae Smith in the end zone for that pass. That would have been a touchdown. Game of inches. So I'm willing to give Brian Johnson a pass, or at least not come down on him so much, because also you got to remember, this is his first year as an OC. Your first year as an OC, and you take your team to 10-2. Coming off of a Super Bowl hangover is what everybody likes to say. We're 10-2. We should have been 11-0, and now we are 10-3. What's the problem? And you want to fire him because you don't like the way he runs the ball. That's a gripe. That's not a fireable offense in my eyes. I will continue to bitch, moan, and complain about what he's not doing with DeAndre Swift. However, we didn't get to 10-3 by ourselves. And if you look at last year, here's the silver lining in all of this. You look at the 22 season. And the way I explained it is, that is the second year Jalen Hurts was in that offense. Jalen Hurts had a new offense from the time he was in college till his second year in the pros. Every year was a new offense. If you play sports, you know how hard it is to learn an offense. If you've ever been a quarterback, you know how impossibly difficult it is to learn an offense. It is not easy. And then you got to learn a new one. Freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year, rookie year, second year. Every one of those years, you learn a new offense. And then, just so happens that the first time in his career He's in the same system for a second consecutive year. He blows up. We didn't know he could pass like this. We didn't know. We thought all he was good for was running the ball. You didn't know none of that stuff. And I'm saying that to say, and I mistakenly thought this too, that Brian Johnson was going to have basically the same type of offense that Shane Steichen did. Nothing can be further from the truth. This is a different offense. So you got that issue in there. And we've been doing relatively well. Again, you got to tweak. What's the tweak? All you got to do is give number 0 the ball, let him carry the ball another 3 to 5 times a game. Or you know what? Let's not even say that. How about this? How about you start giving the ball to DeAndre Swift? How about we get him at least 3 to 5 carries in the first half? How about that? Is that fair? That's the only thing you got to change. Use the checkdowns. Use the screens. Stop trying to run the same damn screens. They know the screens. We've got 2 deflection picks trying to run that screen. So what that tells me is teams are watching film. They know the throwing lanes for the screen. So the defensive end is coming in those throwing lanes, getting the paws up in the air, tipping the ball. Once you tip the ball in the air, anything can happen. So it's not that difficult. Tweak a few things. I say the same thing all the time. I always look back at instances and things that happen in games. And for whatever reason, this plays in my head. When we played Dallas last year at home, they ran that one play. They were in ace formation. Zeke is about 7.5, 8 yards deep, and they run that off tackle play action. Dak would stick the ball out there. Zeke comes in, runs the fake. And then you know what he would do? He would quietly just slip out underneath backside, and he would slip out there in no man's land because everything was moving to the right, and he would quietly kind of sneak out to the left, and he was wide ass open, and they hit him they killed us with that play. I believe they ran that play like 3 times and was successful all 3 times. And you mean to tell me we don't have a play like that? We don't have a play where we can do an arc motion and get the linebackers to flow or create some type of banjo coverage like the 49ers did to us, like Dallas did to us, like Kansas City did to us in the Super Bowl. And they got it from Jacksonville in week 4 of last year. Jacksonville ran that play on us. There's nothing new under the sun. You just got to recognize it. So props to Andy Reid for in that play at that moment. You went all the way back to something that Doug Peterson did on us in week 4. Yes. And it worked twice. We fell for the okie doke twice. Kansas City scored on the same play, just flipped it. So you know what they did? They saw something that worked. They tweaked it and made it fit. They retrofitted it to their offense, and it worked. That's what it means to be creative. You ain't got to create something brand new. You take what you got, and you tweak it a little bit. That's what we're not doing on offense. We're going to need our offense come playoff time, period. I don't know what's going to happen because we in for a road to hoe if we don't get this defense together. If the defense don't somehow, some way prove that they can get off the field on 3rd downs. If they don't somehow, some way prove that they can protect the middle of the field. So Dylan can't give Desai all the blame. He didn't pay 2 agents, cornerbacks, and not find good linebackers. You ain't told no lies there. You know, I don't know. You know, I wish we would have kept Marcus Epps. I wish we would have kept TJ Edwards, or at least kept either TJ Edwards or Kaiser White, one of them. TJ Edwards, to me, would have been a better pick. He should have been in the Pro Bowl last year. So I don't know why we let him walk. I don't know why we let CJ Garner-Johnson. Well, I do know about CJ GJ. I think CJ just outshot his shot in the contracts. I think he may have shot for the moon a little bit too much. and asked for a little bit too much. And maybe it got to the point where Howie was like, yo, you being real disrespectful. But he did lead the team in picks. He led the league in picks, or was tied for the lead in picks, and he dropped 4 of them. Gardner Johnson should have had at least 8 interceptions last year, possibly 10, and Slay should have had 6. But we kept dropping them. So, in my estimation, C.J. Gardner-Johnson was worth the money. And the only reason we brought Slay back was when C.J. Gardner-Johnson didn't want to take a deal. So that's the business of it. I can live with that. What I don't like is you let T.J. Edwards walk. You don't even offer him a contract. Marcus Epps, why couldn't we keep him? He wanted to go back home. T.J. Edwards wanted to go back home to Chicago. Really? So they wanted to go back home more than they wanted to get the bag and win. Nah, it don't work that way. You had an opportunity to keep Marcus Epps. You had an opportunity to keep T.J. Edwards, and we chose not to. That is the mistake that Howie made, in my opinion. That's one of the only things that he's done wrong. Because you know what? Coming up this year, you got Jeremiah Trotter Jr. You still don't know what you got with Nakobe Dean. He ain't been on the field long enough. I think he'll be an impact player, or at least he'll be a good player, but he got to stay on the field. You got to stay on the field. What's the point of bringing in the kid? What's the kid we signed, the big 6'7" receiver that runs the 4.4? What's the point of having somebody like that if you ain't gonna use them? That doesn't. I don't understand that. That's the kid you bring in like, yo, you got one job. We gonna put you in the red zone. The only thing you got to do, you go to the corner of the end zone. When I throw you the ball, I want you to go up like you dunking with 2 hands. That's what you do. When you got players like that, you find a way to use them. DeAndre Swift, find a way to use him. You found a way to use A.J. Brown. Everybody knew what he was when Howie made that deal. You knew what you had. If you go back in 21, as bad as everybody said that Jalen Hurts was, we still had a rookie receiver named Devontae Smith that broke the record for the most reception yards for a rookie. Somebody had to throw him the ball, so Jalen Hurts couldn't have been that bad. We get too caught up in what they're saying in the media, and fans get like, nah, you got to leave that stuff alone because it don't matter. It don't matter. I hear the stuff now. What's the argument now about who's a system quarterback and what Cam Newton said? I'm like, first of all, Cam, can't nobody take you seriously because you look crazy. But that's your opinion, and you entitled to it. Opinions are like assholes and elbows. Everybody got one. But it did make sense. What's a system quarterback? What's a game manager? What does that mean? Oh, so by your measurement of what a quarterback should be, if he ain't throwing the ball for 80 million yards, he ain't a good quarterback. Guess what? How many elite? What's the opposite of a game manager? If we're calling somebody a system quarterback or a game manager, what's the opposite? What's on the other side? Is it elite? No, I don't buy that. The only adjectives that matter when you talk about the NFL is winners and losers. That's it. Is Brock Purdy a system quarterback? Maybe. Is Jalen Hurts a system quarterback? Maybe. I don't care. But guess what? I want that system. Because to me, Brock Purdy, the system is Debo and CMC and Kittles and Ayuk, and he's putting the ball where it needs to be. He ain't throwing the ball 80 yards downfield. He's throwing a 5-yard slant to Debo Samuels, and he's breaking tackles. And he turns a 5-yard gain into a 50-yard touchdown. He's got playmakers. Who wouldn't want that? So if you want to call him a system quarterback, he going to system his behind right on to the Super Bowl the way they're going. That's what you want. They said the same thing about Jalen Hurts last year. It's not Jalen Hurts. It's the system. Anybody can do that with the weapons. And like, well, what do you want? What do you want? Everybody can't beat Tom Brady. Everybody can't beat Peyton Manning or Troy. Or was Troy a system quarterback? Troy Aikman, he had Michael Irvin, the playmaker. He had Larry Allen. He had that defense. He had Emmitt Smith. He had all of those weapons. Was that his system? So what do you want? So get out of this media thing. You know how I feel about that. The people on TV, they guessing like everybody else. They guessing just like everybody else. Them people on the shows, even the former players on some of them shows, they get fed information and they react to the information they are fed. They don't watch all of the games. It's getting very, very specific on which players that you can watch as analysts. Because everybody's like, you can doing what I do now, you can tell right off the shadow without a doubt. You can tell who watches film and who gets fed the information. Because some of the stuff they say, if they actually watch the games, they wouldn't say it. Derek Carr, what the hell are you talking about? So I don't get caught up into that. At the end of the day, we got 4 weeks to fix our issues. We are going to be in the playoffs. The question is will we be playing home or will we be traveling for that game? That's the only thing that matters. I could care less about home field advantage. I want it, but what I care about more right now is, are we going to have our issues solved by the time the playoffs start? That is the only thing that matters. Because once the playoff starts, everybody is on the even playing field. Everybody's at the same spot. Some people just get that first bye week, right? You got 4 teams that are going to get a bye. And you know what? Some people don't like the bye. It messes up the rhythm. Some teams get a good momentum and they don't want it to stop. They want to keep going. So they don't want the bye week. Some teams need the bye week. They want to heal up. Everybody's different. But at the end of the day, you in the same boat. You in the same boat. A week of rest is also now in today's NFL with social media and all of this stuff. If you an extra week of rest is also an extra week of distractions. The way a lot of these people are going. Everybody and their mama got a podcast. Everybody and their mama is causing distractions for their own team based on what they say on their podcast or on social media, and they creating their own distractions. So when you got an extra week, there's more things that can go wrong. It wasn't like that in the past. You can kind of hunker down, get in the playbook, relax. You can do some things. Now, everybody wants to jump on the podcast, and you don't know what they're going to say. Cause their own firestorm. You never know what's going to happen. So I don't necessarily believe that having the bye week is as beneficial as it used to be. Playing at home is, but again, look at what the 49ers did to us at home. You got San Francisco, Dallas, Baltimore. Those are the top 3 teams in the league. We're not in that category anymore. Philadelphia, Buffalo, Miami, Kansas City. I'm trying to think of who else. Those are just 4 teams. Detroit. We're in that category now where you might not want to play Philadelphia or Detroit in that first round. That's a tough out. We're in that category now. We had our opportunity to claim the top spot, and we couldn't do it. We lost 2 weeks in a row. We lost ground. If Dallas wins out, it's all about who wins out and what happens these last 4 weeks of the game. That's it. So if Dallas wins more than us, they'll win the division, or they'll win the conference, and they're home field advantage. And so it's all about a numbers game. We are in the playoffs. It's just, where are we going to play? Are we going to play at home? Or are we going to play away? But regardless of what happens, we got to have some of these issues handled. Period. We got to have some of these issues handled. So Sean Desai better get in his bag and get to getting. And them boys on defense better learn how to damn tackle. There's also one thing I wanted to say with all of that hoopla that happened last week with Slay talking about Seth going off on them because they couldn't tackle. And he said, and Slay said what he said on his podcast. And I even chimed in on that. I was like, hold on, bro. You ain't gonna talk about my teammate and say he don't know what he's talking about and we didn't know how to tackle. I'm like, bro, we tackled every day. And then what happens? If you saw my video, you know what I'm talking about. Reed Blankenship makes a tackle. I believe it was on Ferguson, ducks his head and gets a concussion because his technique was garbage. So Slay, y'all don't know how to tackle because you don't work on it in camp no more. You can only figure it out in the game. So I'm not sure about the X's and O's and what Sean Desai is doing, whether it's really working well or not. Obviously, it's not working well, but I know something that can immediately help our defense, and that is tackling efficiently and getting the ball carrier on the ground. That can have an immediate impact on our defense. That's what we need. So we'll see what we do on Monday. All right, I'm going to get up out of here. Y'all enjoy this. Is there an Amazon game tonight? I don't even know if it is or not, but we'll be back next week. Check out the content on the channel. If you haven't subscribed to A2D Radio, what you waiting for? Because we ain't going nowhere and we ain't playing. So y'all better get to getting. Check me out on my YouTube channel, Pro Fan Talk. Daily content every day. You know how we do it. And we're going to be back. So hopefully we'll have a little bit better news on Tuesday night. So we'll see what's going to happen. I appreciate y'all for joining me. Good conversations. Chat was on fire tonight. I appreciate y'all. And we will see y'all next week. Go Birds.